Hello. Let me pull up Facebook and we'll get started. I want to make sure I can see comments. Think we're live. Let me double check. Says it's live. I'm trying to look for comments. So here it is. Yay. Okay. I am so excited to be here. I know that this is a big topic and hello. Oh, yay. Telia, is that how we say it? Thank you so much for being here and for saying hello. If you are here and you jump on live, please jump in, say hello. Anyone who, communicates and everything will be entered to win a session with me. So really excited about this. Let me take a sip of water while we wait a second. I know there was a lot of interest. This is a big topic this year, and it came up with people I know in business, people I know personally, clients, non-clients. I think a lot of people were thrown for a loop with their taxes. And so I really want to have a conversation about that and preparing for it. So questions, comments, be sure to pop in and let me know. So at first, and I have my notes, let me pull those in front of me too. Why am I here? My why is very important to me. I'm here to support business owners because I really truly believe that a rising tide raises all boats. And Talia, okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you. I really believe a rising tide raises all boats. And so the better that we all do collectively, the better, our community and everyone does. So, if you're a business owner and you're doing well, then the coffee shop nearby will do better, and the hair salon will do well, and the bookstore will do well, and our schools will do well. So that's why I'm here. That's why I love showing up and just sharing information and just really trying to support business owners. Like this group is called Peaceful and Profitable. I want us to feel peaceful around our numbers and create more profit in our business. So, I am an accountant. I majored in accounting. I worked in public accounting, got my CPA, worked in public accounting until 2008 when they downsized. I went into industry and I've not gone into public accounting since then. So in 2015, I started my bookkeeping business. And then in the past year, started working with clients one-to-one because I realized that the bookkeeping was super helpful. It was taking a lot off their plate, but business owners still struggled with understanding their numbers and kind of feeling alone in their business. And so I love this one-to-one work that I do with my clients and the preparation we do for tax season all year long. So I do that with my one-to-ones and the bookkeeping. The two things I'll talk about today are consistency and communicating. So we'll get started. So, the first thing is, if we feel scared about taxes, then we're not going to feel like it's safe to grow. So that's something I talk about with people a lot, is feeling safe in our business. And I know that a lot of people feel scared, like, well, if I make more revenue or if I am more profitable, then I'm going to owe more in taxes. And that's scary. I don't know what to do. So they kind of block that growth. Whereas if we kind of have a plan and we get strategic about things and kind of look at it from a standpoint of a neutral standpoint and not feeling so triggered and charged, then, we can just grow and prepare ourselves better. So something that comes up with the consistency piece of this that I feel like is relevant is, Thalia says, yes, I do that. I do that too. I mean, it's been something that's come up over and over with a lot of business owners not feeling safe. Like, I have kids. And so it's like, well, what's going to happen to my time if I take on more clients? And so that's when I've hired team and all this stuff. So I just think it's just super applicable for a lot of people, just that feeling of safe and looking at it in your business and how to create safety. But, part of the consistency we're going to talk about today in preparing for tax season comes down to planning. So I feel like it's relevant to mention next week starts my free strategic planning party challenge. I will drop the link in the notes. It's free to sign up. You get an email each day. There's a PDF and a video. And then each day you can come into the Facebook group and get support. And I'll probably go in live each day and answer questions and, whatever comes up. So I feel like strategic planning is such a big thing. And even if you're a new business owner or a seasoned business owner, like it's just so important to do constantly. It's the end of a quarter now. So I think it's just the perfect time and just very relevant to keep this going, especially as we are preparing for tax season. So when I talk about consistency, that means preparing all year long. So that means getting everything in your books. I know that people always want like this secret loophole secret or, secret loophole big thing that's like, ooh, do this if you're in this income bracket and your spouse does this, then you can save this amount of money. And like, we're looking for those like sexy outliers, but really what are the best tax savings and tax prep is having your books up to date and having all your business expenses entered. If you are paying for things not through your business account, then that's really it's not going to lower your income. So, if you're paying for expenses with your personal and it doesn't get entered in your books, then it's like an expense never happened. So you either need to pay for everything with your business account, or you need to make sure that your bookkeeper knows about your not your business expenses paid with your personal account, so they can do a journal entry to record those. So that's kind of the first thing, is making sure that you are not underreporting expenses or over-reporting revenue. So underreporting expenses, again, it just means making sure everything is entered, you have everything captured, everything reconciles every month. So the revenue piece of that, I worked with a business owner a few months ago, and they had over-reported their revenue by 20 grand. And the reason that happened was he was invoicing his clients, and then in the banking section, he would just go in and enter all the deposits of sales. So it was income on the invoice, and it was income when he entered the deposit. So what we really need to do is match those, because otherwise he just doubled everything. And if you over-report your revenue, then you're going to over-report, or, your taxes are going to be higher based on this false income. And what I talk about when I was mentioning feeling safe around growing, like it's okay to grow your revenue and it's okay to owe more in taxes because you have that money and you have that growth to support that. We just have to be mindful and plan for it all year long. Is this making sense? Any questions around this? So the next piece, we'll go to the revenue part. So if you are invoicing, you want to make sure that you match it to the deposit. And then as you're reconciling each month, make sure that all those invoices reconcile. And if they don't, do some digging. So either, did it get lumped in with another deposit, or did they not actually pay it? Really being mindful of your accounts receivable and your aging is important. You just want to stay on top of that and make sure that you don't have a lot of outstanding invoices, because that's really affecting your cash flow. And then especially at year end, if you have invoices outstanding for months and you report that as income on your books, then you're going to be paying taxes on that, but you haven't received the money for that. So making sure that you stay on top of that will really support you in making sure you have the cash for your taxes. Just checking any comments. I want to make sure I answer anything that comes up as we go along. So I'm looking at my notes. We did a bookkeeping flow video a few weeks ago. So we really went into like a lot of the nuts and bolts of bookkeeping. So if you're interested and you want to go back and look at that, that would be helpful, I think. If you wanted like the whole conversation about bookkeeping, because, with all my bookkeeping clients, that's really how we prepare them for year end. Like people always are like, oh, this time of year must be so busy for you. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like we do it all year long. We prepare all year long. Like it's not a scramble. And that's what's so interesting to hear from people, is that they think it has to be a struggle. Like I know CPAs that, their tax season is crazy. But, I'm not a tax CPA. I'm doing the books, I'm doing the advisory stuff. So what we do is all year long. So it's really just like, yeah, everything's reconciled, everything's answered. Your accountant has access to the books. Let us know if you have any questions. Check. So it can really be that easy. And what we do, another thing that prepares all year long, is that we request W-9 forms from subcontractors every month. So if there's someone that triggers, in our mind, like, oh, they might need a 1099 at year end, we go ahead and check the box in QuickBooks that they'll receive a 1099 and put a note that we requested a W-9 form. So we usually send a blank form and just request the sub's email, because you can request it through QuickBooks as well. So the person can either fill out this W-9, or you can send it through QuickBooks and they can fill it out automatically in there. They do need to have the box checked that they're a 1099, or else they won't show up on that contractor's piece of QuickBooks. So that's definitely something, if you're like, wait, they're not showing up, I can't do it, that box needs to be checked. And if you have any questions about how to do that in QuickBooks, it's really easy, and I can just, give you the breakdown of that if you need to. So that's kind of like the consistency piece of this, being consistent in your books. And then also, like when I talked about the strategic planning, like we really want to make sure that we are in communication with our CPAs. So, that means getting in touch with them. CPAs I work with, like, I love them all. They're such good people, that they're so busy. And so, my clients will sometimes be like, well, I don't know, they haven't contacted me. And I'm like, well, it's really on us to like contact them and I like to do a mid-year check-in. So with my one-to-one clients, we make sure that we do a mid-year check-in with their CPA. And especially if they have a busy season, doing a check-in around that busy season to really be like, hey, these are our numbers compared to last year. Like, what do you think? Because I'm all about getting like a tax savings percentage and then using that every month. So I work with clients, and just for myself personally, we have a spreadsheet, and we kind of do our percentages, like our operating expenses, we want to be this percentage. We want our owner pay to be this percentage. We want our tax savings to be this percentage. So they're broken out, and then we might have like a profit savings account. And those percentages added together equal 100%. And so say that your taxes are 15%. So every month we want to make sure that we're saving 15%. Like, okay, this is the cash we took in. Let's go ahead and take 15% of that and put it in this tax savings account and just let it sit there. And especially if you work in a business that has a busy season, you'll usually have times when cash is flush, and you have more money, more busy season stuff. And then you might have seasons where it's super low, you're barely able to pay for your operating expenses. And so I think it's really important to plan for those months. And maybe in your months where you have more cash, go ahead and save for those off months too, just so you can make sure that you're saving along the way. That's something I also like to recommend with big expenses that come up once a year, just making sure that maybe we split that big expense into 12 payments or 12 months, increments, and save for those every month. So it's really like getting on board with consistency and preparing for that every month. So that's really kind of like, excuse me, the piece around saving for income taxes. And, I can't sit here and be like, well, if you're in this, tax bracket, you need to save this percent. There's just so much to it. Even with my business one-to-one clients, like, I don't know what their spouse does. I don't know what their withholding is. I don't know if they got like solar panels on their house and they're going to get a little kickback for that. There's just so many things that come into play. So we really rely on being in a conversation with the CPA and making sure that they know where we are throughout the year. Any questions or comments coming up around this? So that's how I kind of look at the framework of, saving all year long, because I think that's just really important when you get to the end of the year, is to feel safe and secure and know that you have the money to pay your taxes. Even if you're like, ooh, It's still not fun, but I have the money. Maybe I'll have a little left over. And it's not a huge deal and we move on. So the next thing, and I looked at the dates really quick, but the estimated tax payments. So if you are an LLC or, kind of some kind of single member entity, solo entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, we need to pay estimated taxes. Obviously, if you're in your very first year of business, you don't have to do that. Well, not obviously, but it's obvious to me, but other people it might not be obvious to. But the estimated tax payments are based on your prior year's numbers. So you're paying in throughout the year, basically what you paid in taxes the previous year. And that's because when you're an employee, you have, a paycheck and you get taxes withheld every pay period. And so those get sent, to the government, and the government gets their money all year long. So the government does not want you to be self-employed entrepreneur and just not pay taxes all year and just do it at the end of the year. Like, they're smart enough to know that like you're making money all year, they want to get paid all year. So that's why we have the estimated tax payments. And those are usually on the 15th of the month after the quarter end. So, we just had one due. It was April 18th because I think the 15th was Good Friday. So Q1 was due April 18th, and then Q2 and Q3 are due on the 15th. So that is, what is it? July and June and September. And then in January 2023, it'll be on the 17th. But basically, it's a good framework for you to know, like, okay, we're going to have these estimated payments through the year. And I always like to get my clients to lay them out. So take a look at all of them. You've got federal, and you usually have state. And federal is usually the big one. State, you might not have a lot, or maybe you have some for some months and not for other months, but they might not all necessarily be the exact same. But just talk to your CPA and make sure that they give you those estimated tax payments and then lay them out. And that's kind of our framework to start. So if you know that in June, you need to pay $1,000, what I like to do is break that down. So that's like what, $333 a month. So take that $333 and put it in a bank account and leave that just for taxes. And that is on top of the percentage and the income tax prep that you are doing through the year each month. So we're using both of those together because you'll need that money sitting in the bank in June, in September, in January when you have to make those payments. And that's the hard thing about paying Q1 each year. It always falls at the same time that income taxes are due. And so just making like super sure that you are saving for both of them, especially as the year goes on, so that when you have to pay your income taxes and you have to pay the Q1, it's like, it hurts, I get it, but if you're prepared, it makes such a difference and it feels so much better. Like this year, I saved like basically to the T. And yeah, I mean, it was like way more than I'd ever paid in taxes before, but I was just like, done. All right, send it off. I'm not like freaking out. I mean, I moved money around because I had to move it out of my savings account to my, account that I was going to pay it from. And, there was moving money, but it wasn't like, where is it coming from? We have to pull it out of this. And it was just a peaceful process. And that's really how it can be. And that's really what I'm here to talk about and, communicate. So if you have questions, let me know. I don't know. Talia, I don't know if you have anything to say around all this, but I'd love to hear from you. So anyone joining on can pop in. I'm going to look at my notes. But yeah, I think that was kind of all in my head. I thought it was going to be like super long, but I'm glad that it's not. I'm glad to get in and get you what you need. Again, it's just really like, I see it so much, just this need to feel safe. And, that's why I called the group Peaceful and Profitable, because it can be both. We can feel peaceful in our business and we can be profitable and we can be prepared for tax season. So if you have questions after this or comments, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. I do this every week. So I come in on Wednesdays at 12. Obviously, if something comes up during the summer with kids and July 4th, that'll probably be a week I skip, but I'm here every week and love hearing from y'all and love getting your feedback and your comments. So if no one has anything else, then I'm going to pop off, and I hope this has been helpful, and I really appreciate y'all being here and, joining, and either you're here live or if you are joining the replay, then just, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I love hearing out. Talia, yeah. And I mean, if you have something now, let's talk about it. When you say, she said, I'll be reaching out, I'm not prepared the way I should be, but, is there something like right now that, would be helpful? Like, is it just like setting up that process, or is it, knowing kind of what to do? And even CPAs that file taxes, like, I'll be totally transparent, I don't file tax returns. I have not done that since I worked in public accounting. But I work with the people who do, and they can't even tell you like, you're going to owe this much. Like, it's such a like numbers like thing. Like, even for me personally, my CPA, because I don't want to file my taxes, he was like, your estimated payments could go down. Your husband just doesn't withhold a lot. So it's like, well, let's get him to withhold more so that my estimated payments can go down. And he was even like, I can't tell you what your estimated payments are going to be after he changes his withholding. Like, we just have to see what it changes on his withholding. Send me the, sorry, I keep trying to like this, send me the pay stubs and we'll go from there. So like, it's just such a like in the air, like there's so many variables that it's so hard to just be like, this is the number. But what we can do is get a percentage, find a good stable. I like to be conservative. I don't like to play to the outliers. I like to, make sure that, yeah, maybe there might be some huge deduction that would be great, but I'm not going to like hold my breath for that. So, let's be conservative and save for a conservative amount. And then if we save too much, woo, like it's not like a big thing. So yeah, if you want to mention like how you're not prepared, we could talk about that. But of course, like, yes, please, we could talk about it separately if you're like, I don't want to talk about this in public. But most people, it is just coming up with a process and having that consistency to do it every month. Okay, yeah, my question is more on filing and better systems. I need to catch up. Yeah. And creating those systems, so getting the books done every month and getting everything cleaned up. And I think we talked about this in our bookkeeping flow as well, but on top of making sure that everything is reconciled every month, we're also making sure that like the undeposited funds account, like everything that goes into undeposited funds should come out of undeposited funds. You want to make sure that, your uncategorized accounts don't have stuff going in those, just making sure that everything is correct in your books. And then, letting your CPA look at that mid-year, comparing it to the previous year. So a lot of people I work with, 2020 was a dumpster, trash fire, whatever they want to call it. So 2021 is getting to be better, and it's getting to be like usable data. So now as we're in 2022, just checking in with your CPA, like either during your busy season or, kind of mid-year, just being like, hey, so these are my numbers compared to last year. What do you think? Should we have a meeting? Obviously Q1, they're super busy. Now is a great time, now and through the summer, they're definitely have a little more time for those kinds of things. We just have to be mindful of their busy season because it does ramp up again, the end of like Q3 because of the extensions that have to get filed, and then year end, kind of everything gets a little crazy again. So I always like to be in communication with them and make sure like, hey, when's a good time to make this happen? I want to be respectful of your time and my time, and then just keeping those systems open and the communication open. And then having your spreadsheet. Like I literally, Talia, if we meet, I can just like literally show you a spreadsheet that's like a breakdown of, okay, if I want my operating to be this, tax savings to be this, owner pay to be this, savings to be this, it's like, okay, get your cash amount that you took in, put that, and literally like multiply, like, okay, if my tax savings is 15%, multiply it by the cash that came in. Okay, that's $500. Move that $500 to this tax savings account. And I literally name the account tax savings, and I don't touch it. Like, it might accrue a little bit of interest. That's not the point. It's just a checking account that, like, it just sits there, and that's what it's for. It's to pay your estimated taxes through the year, and it's to pay your income taxes at the end of the year. So if you want to work together, we can get a spreadsheet. Just having that percentage there, and then laying out your estimated taxes, breaking that into monthly payments, and then just adding that on top of your monthly, percentage. So if it's like, okay, I need to save $500 for income taxes, and my estimated tax payment savings is $333, that's $833. Save it, done, move on. So that's what I recommend, and that's what we do. It's kind of like just the consistent way to do it. And that's really, I hate to tell everybody, there's no like, it's not like sexy or Instagrammable or, anything. Everybody's like, give me the easy, tax break. But, those do exist. But I love talking consistency and communication. So any other questions or comments? I love hearing from y'all. I think these are super fun. Like I said, this is my why. I feel like I have a lot of information in my brain. But if people don't ask me, sometimes it doesn't come out because I take things for granted about how I do things and, what people know or what they don't know. So, never feel like you're asking a dumb question, because there are no such things, which I know we heard that in school all the time. But, there's really like, as an entrepreneur, like, we're good at what we do. We're here with our gifts, but like, we literally can't know everything. And that's something that I really want to get like normal about, and, just make everyone feel comfortable, especially in this group. That's why I started it. Just wanted people to have a place to come and ask their questions and get support, and know that, everybody's learning something along this journey. So reach out if you have any questions. I love hearing from y'all, and have a great rest of your day.